We start off here. We have U.S. Senate candidates that are going to be in, and let's start off and get right to them. Is Eddie Mauro. Eddie, great to see you, buddy. Thanks for coming up. Look forward to hearing from you.
What's the chance of this coming off of here? Chance, please tell me it's a chance. Please tell me it's a chance. Thanks for coming out today. Whoa. As I mentioned, my name is Eddie Mauro. I'm running for the United States Senate here. And when I ran for Congress in 2018 in the 3rd District, came in second in that race, in that primary. Cindy Axney won that primary, now our congressperson, and doing a phenomenal job. And shortly after that, she got in touch with me and says, you know what, you need to stay in the game because I think you're pretty good. I said, okay, I'll go out and explore what I can do. And then I went and talked to my uncle, Michael Mauro. You might know who he is. He was our Secretary of State about 10 years ago. So it was a Mauro, it's one statewide. And I went to him and I said, you know, how do we win statewide? And then what should I be talking about when I visit with Iowans? And his granddaughter was there, Maria. And she said, why don't you open with a joke? I said, okay. It's not as funny as his, but go ahead and tell me one. And she says, why did the Democrat cross the road? I said, all right, Maria, why did the Democrat cross the road? She said, well, that's for you to figure out. I said, okay, that's not very funny. I can't say that joke around the state of Iowa. But after I thought about it, I determined that she was right. You see, when somebody from the private sector wants to cross the road into public life, public service, to ask for your vote, ask for your support, it's his or her obligation to tell you why they're crossing that road. And I want to be a United States Senator. I'm here tonight to tell you why that is. It starts by telling you that I have a lot of roots in rural Iowa. My mother's from Carroll, Iowa. I spent a lot of time, a lot of summers in Carroll, Iowa. My aunt and uncle had the farm nearby there in Litterdale, if you know where that is. Lots of summer days and nights in Carroll, learn about Iowa values. My mom, she cleaned houses for a living. She cut hair. She worked in the school cafeteria. My dad, after he left the Navy, he became a lifelong teacher and coach, which is all I ever wanted to be. And it's what I became. In fact, early in my life, I came to think that I had all things that Iowans would value. A wonderful, wonderful wife, now 29 years, her name is Sherilyn, and a job teaching and coaching the kinds of kids that educators would dream of. You see, these kids, they would join me outside the classroom in the community service and activism I've been part of since the age of 14. Serving the homeless, feeding the hungry, fixing up shelters. Working with kids like that was an honor, it was a dream. And life for me was really, really good. And then it got even better with the arrival of twins, Dominic and Mia Mauro. And I looked at these two newborns, both around 5 pounds each, and I swore to them that I would do whatever it took for me to take care of them now and to the future. And I set out to do that. But then reality struck, in the same way it struck thousands of Iowans in our lifetimes. You see, one night, my wife and I were sitting at a kitchen table, much like that right there where you're eating your barbecue today, and we listed our incomes and all the expenses of raising 2 kids. I had no idea. And I learned that we were going to have a hard time keeping up. In fact, I wasn't sure we'd be able to get by. And I'm not talking about trips to Paris or anything like that. I'm talking about making a $500 medical emergency if one arose. Sending my kids to college one day. The math just wasn't there. So I left the classroom. I built a business. I was able to change the math that would have hamstrung my family. My new business went really well. I've been able to instill my progressive values and employ over 70 people across this state. I work in every county in the state today impacting small business owners. And because of that success, I found I was able to get back to my community in new ways and expand my activism. Started assisting domestic violence survivors and human trafficking survivors. Started fighting for workers' rights and farmers' rights. Became a champion for education in my community. Working on mental health and all along fighting for the most vulnerable people in our communities. Like Barack Obama, I became a community organizer. I'm a founding member of an organization known as Amos, if you've heard of it. It's done some great work in central Iowa. For over 20 years, back in 1996, I helped get that organization off the ground. It continues to do great work. And in doing that kind of work, I learned how to focus and gather resources. How to get people to work together when they don't always have the courage to do that. How to make sure we get people to agree when we didn't always agree. All good skills we can use in the U.S. Senate today. And as I did that kind of work, I saw I wanted help even more. You see, I'm seeing people across this state, despite their hard work and their determination to play by the rules, are struggling to get by. I'm seeing that in community centers like this and in churches and farms. I'm seeing that in barbershops and fire stations and daycare centers. And there's two things I know about Iowans. We work really hard and we believe in fair play. But as I'm looking and we're observing what's going on around this state today, there's a lot of fundamental unfairness happening all around. You see, when the cost of health care is so expensive and prescription drugs cost is what they do, and our parents then are taking their medications every other day, or our loved ones are sharing their medicines because they can't afford any better, that feels unfair, and we deserve better. When we see politicians voting to take away your health care, when those politicians have the best health insurance in the world, health insurance that you and I pay for, that feels unfair, and we deserve better. When we see elected officials voting to ban the rights of women to control their own bodies, and then they don't commit to affordable housing, to daycare, to economic security, to make sure we take care of mothers and their kids, that feels unfair, and we deserve better. When we see our schools getting worse and politicians doing little to help, when we see our climate and our environment being threatened, and our politicians rewarding that pollution instead of punishing it, that feels unfair to us, and we deserve better. And when we see gun violence raining down in our communities, and hateful rhetoric coming from our leaders, and our friends on the other side of the aisle, their response to that is silence. Damn, friends, we deserve better. Then we begin to ask, didn't we send somebody to D.C. to keep an eye on all that for us? And the answer is yes. Her name is Joni Ernst, and she's been on the wrong side of all those issues. I do got to ask, how many members in the from any veterans here today? We served our country in the military in there. Thank you for your service. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Thank you. I mentioned my father was in the Navy. I had an uncle who served in Korea. He suffered PTSD before he even knew what that was. A good friend of mine today, he was in Vietnam 50 years ago. He was in Iraq 12 years ago, and I still see the mental and physical scars from his service. Kids that I taught and coached still today serve our country in the military. I respect and honor the men and women that have done that. Joni Ernst has also served this country in the National Guard. I respect and honor her service to this country. But you know what? Being a United States Senator, that requires a different kind of service, a different kind of courage. The courage to stand up to your party when your party is wrong. The courage to speak the truth, even that might cost you your vote, maybe your election. The courage to stand with Iowans first and foremost, even that might result in a mean tweet from a president. Instead, Ms. Ernst has sold you out. She has not been a senator for this state from the outset. She's been a senator for special interests, for big industry, for fat cats like the Koch brothers, and they support her very well. You deserve better. You need a senator that's going to fight for you. Somebody that's going to stand with you. And that's me. I pledge you today to be a people's senator, fighting for your health care, for your economic security, for your education, for the Social Security that's under threat, for our climate, our environment, for the promise and the hope that we give to our kids and our grandkids. And that's why this Democrat has crossed the road. The public life, the public service, the privilege and honor of serving you in the United States Senate. I would sure love to get your help to get there. I love to travel around this country, around this state. I've been doing a lot. Climate strikes the last couple of days in Cedar Rapids for the LGBTQ forum, the steak fry. We just came from Knoxville. Now we're here. We're traveling every day. And I enjoy it for two reasons. Because I get great food, and I love to answer questions. So I got a few minutes left, I think, of my time. I'd love to answer a question or two, then I'll get out of your way. So please, fire away. Anything you want to ask, whether I'm a Hawkeye fan or a Cyclone fan, don't ask me that one. But anything else you want to know about me or about positions I might have, be happy to answer a question. Yes, ma'am.
Do you support a moratorium on confined animal feeding operations?
Yes. So we have a lot of counties that are struggling with that today, right?
Yeah.
And we need to go work with our county supervisors, who I think we have a couple here today that are having tough conversations with folks, whether it be neighbors in the industry. We got to find a good partnership where we can help people be successful, but not pollute our water, not pollute our air, not pollute our soils, so we make sure that's viable for us for decades to come. Thanks for asking. What else? I saw another hand go up. I got time for one more. How much time do I have, sir? No, I don't need to run long, so I'll just, yes, ma'am.
How are you going to address voters in rural Iowa?
So she asked how we're going to address voters in rural Iowa. It's a great question. So we do that, first of all, by showing up. So I'm north of 60 counties now, and almost to 70 counties that I visited. Obviously, rural, urban, suburban areas. And we need to go talk with people. We don't need to go talk to them. We don't need to talk down to them. We need to go sit and visit with you. Because rural Iowa's been the backbone of this state for ages. Rural Iowa could be the epicenter and the solution for climate change. Rural Iowa can be the spot where we go back and revitalize those communities. I taught in Seymour, Iowa, and Wayne County. We need to go revitalize those areas. Again, I mentioned earlier I do business on all those main streets and town squares. And we need to go talk with people again. Ask them how we can help. I come from a Bobby Kennedy perspective. When Bobby Kennedy went down to the Mississippi Delta, you know what he did? How can I help you? What are your ideas? What are your solutions? And then what can I do with that? When he went out and talked with Cesar Chavez, same thing. How can we help the growers out here? What can I do for you? How can we make it happen? When he went into the inner cities in New York, the same thing. What can we do to make it better? What are your ideas? How do we make that happen? And we haven't done that. And some of that's on us as a party. So we can't go out and tell you what we need to do. You don't need some white and shiny on a horse walking in or riding in. You need somebody who want to go sit around the table and talk with people, find out what is it that you want to do. How can I help you do it? When I talk to rural Iowa, when I talk to farmers, they all want clean air. They all want clean water. They all want sustainable soil. But they also want to feed their families. They want to send their kids to college. They want to be able to retire one day. So we all got to figure out how do we make that all happen. And we can do that. And we can do that while we tackle climate change. A win-win for rural communities, where farmers can be at the forefront of this, where they can make sure they can make good money doing that. We can reward them for that. And we make this country and this world safer for our kids and our grandkids. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here today because each of you deserves to know that your children, your grandchildren, America's children, the world's children are going to grow up in the best possible world. I want to help build that world. And my background lends itself well to that because I hear you, I see you, I've been walking with you, and I want to go fight for you and be your voice. I want to be your U.S. Senator. I hope you'll help me to get there. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you very much.